Walt Disney Pictures presents an entertainment event you'll never forget.
Welcome back, everybody. I am Nintendo Man 64, and I am bringing you our second action replay. Technically our third if you count Pokemon Leaf Green, but I don't care. We've got other things to take care of, such as playthroughs of other games, including an action replay of a game that I played about a year ago. I played a different version of this game, but I decided, you know what, it'd be worth it to play this version of this game. This is the Sega Genesis version of the Lion King. And why am I playing this now? Well, 22 years ago to this very day, June 24th, 2016, 22 years ago to this day, the Lion King premiered in theaters for the very first time. Now, I originally was not going to play this game on the 24th. However, when I found out that the 24th was actually a Friday, which is obviously when most movies open, as you guys are fully aware, I decided this would be the perfect thing to do. And even though it's gonna limit my ability to make other videos, I figured, you know what? I owe it to the Lion King, because the Lion King really has molded me as a person. So, without further ado, I think it's time that we started.
It starts.
Thank you, Timon. I don't think they could have figured that out on their own. Okay. Now, what you want to do is you want to have if you're going to be using an emulator, you want your controller set to 6 buttons instead of 3. This will help you a lot later on in the journey. Right now, it's not really going to be helpful because, well, you're not going to be worrying too much about that stuff. Mostly because, as you are fully aware of yourselves at this point, there are moves that you can learn as adult Simba that can make your job so much easier. Now, I'm not going to go in depth about what you have to do with this one because I've already gone in depth multiple times. It's just different combinations of buttons for this one, for this game at least. I could talk about the movie, obviously, which I think I'm actually going to be doing, so I could talk about, actually for this episode I'm going to talk about mostly just like the cultural impact this film has had. I mean, you will be hard pressed to find someone who has not seen this movie. I mean, there are some people who haven't. I mean, obviously there are some people that haven't seen it, like what's his name? The blind commentator who hasn't seen it. Atticus, I think is his name. He didn't see the movie. So he did a blind commentary of the movie, and obviously it blew him away. But a lot of people don't understand how little faith Disney had in this movie prior to 1993. Jeffrey Katzenberg went on the record saying if the film made $50 million, he would have got on his hands and knees and praised everybody. Nobody had faith in this movie, and that made very few people want to work on it. I mean, before the mid-90s, all the animators in Disney films worked on the same films, like Little Mermaid, Rescuers Down Under, Beauty and the Beast. Around the time Aladdin was being made, the animation group decided to split itself up so they could work on multiple projects. Very few of those top animators wanted to work on Lion King because they felt it was either below them or they felt that Pocahontas, which was going to come out a year later, was the superior film. And history has proven to shit all over Pocahontas. So, unfortunately for those that liked Pocahontas, it was not the success Disney was hoping for. As you guys are fully aware, The Lion King was not the film that it ultimately turned out to be when it first started production. When it first started production, The Lion King was basically a National Geographic special that was animated. It had no music. It was generally viewed upon as mediocre.
Everything the light touches is our kingdom.
And ultimately, it began to change as people began to look more in depth at it, mostly because of how successful the musicals that were being made were. I mean, Beauty and the Beast made more money than I think anyone expected it to. Aladdin was grossing $500 million at that point. So yeah, it was a wickedly awesome time for Disney at that point. So that's why Disney went in depth trying to fix this film to being something that would be memorable. And obviously this change was attributed to multiple people. It started with replacing the director, George Scribner, who had directed Oliver and Company previously. And he was replaced with Rob Minkoff, who had been a long-time animation, like a sort of mixed in-between guy, did some good stuff, but he was replaced with Rob Minkoff. He replaced George Scribner, and Roger Allers, who had been the story head on Beauty and the Beast, was the other director. But of course, more than just one or two little changes have occurred for this little story. One of the big ones included hiring Elton John and Tim Rice to write the songs for it. Now, people were like very skeptical. They're like, how can you tell a story like this as it was being molded with songs?
Cool.
Well, Elton John and Tim Rice really reminded them what they were trying to do with all their other films at this point. So, yeah, they reminded them this is how it's supposed to be. All these animated films that we've been making are in the same vein as the classic animated films we all grew up with. The Cinderellas, the Snow Whites, the Pinocchios. And it really just molded itself into being a Disney film. Also adding to the film was Hans Zimmer's stunning score for the film, which I think no animated film has ever come close to matching in terms of raw power and emotion that is in the score. And that also can be attributed to Hans's friend Lebo M, who did the classic opening chant for Circle of Life. And obviously, the more people started to look at the film, the more people started to really appreciate the film. Oh, darn it. Oh, well. I was on a good run there. Oh, well. That's okay. I have plenty of lives, so I can risk a few of them. Anyway, and the more people started to think about the film, the more they started to really get blown away with how good it was. One of the most famous moments was documented both during a a making of special and for the film Waking Sleeping Beauty. The film Waking Sleeping Beauty covers the backstory behind the 10-year period from 84 to 94 where Disney really got back on track. And it was Andreas Deja, who was the supervising animator for Scar, who really was blown away by the way they wrote the scene of Simba talking to Mufasa's ghost. And the words that they used was stunning him. It was giving him chills. Because really, this was a film that, in general, really shouldn't have been it really shouldn't have been as special as it was, but it really was. I mean, it covers things that it really should be covering, and I think I screwed up. Oh, I've given myself more time to talk. Even Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was so opposed to the film who thought the film was going to be an absolute disaster, he thought the film was fantastic. And he praised the crap out of it the more it got deeper, the deeper it got into production. Do we have another one up here? Ah, we don't. Oh well. So, and as you guys have become fully aware of, The Lion King did move on and become the most successful animated film of all time until Finding Nemo, Shrek 2, Toy Story 3, Frozen, Minions, and Zootopia have ultimately passed it. But that's okay, because it's still the most successful traditionally drawn animated film. Okay, gotta remember, Mike, we're timed here. I would like to get the, that little boost you get. You know, the boost to health that you get here. But it's a little trickier to get in this one because the time is so against you. But anyway, we will be resuming here next episode. Thank you guys for joining me. I'm Nintendo Man 64. Join me next time where we progress through the next 2 levels in the game, the Elephant Graveyard and the Stampede, and we talk about some other aspect of the Lion King. Until then, sayonara.